This is People of the State of Michigan versus Douglas Jackson, docket number 19-266FH. This, Mr. Jackson, you're here today because a bench warrant was issued based on allegations that you're in violation of probation. First of all, the bench warrant was issued when you failed to appear for a probation violation show cause hearing before me on August 10th of last year. And that violation was based on allegations in count 1 that you failed to report police contact that occurred on or about July 25 of last year within 24 hours. In count 2, that you failed to attend and complete the MRT cognitive behavioral program at PATS. In count 3, that you failed to make any payments towards your court assessments since September of 2019. And in count 4, that you were in possession of drug paraphernalia, that being a crack cocaine pipe, on or about July 25 of last year. And if these, do you understand the allegations against you, Mr. Jackson?
Yes, ma'am.
And if they're proven true, it could subject you to a maximum penalty of up to 2.5 years in prison based on your original conviction. You have the right to be represented by an attorney. You are represented by Mr. Austin, who is present with us. And you also have the right to a contested hearing, where you could appear by yourself or through an attorney. You could hear the evidence presented against you. You could cross-examine witnesses, and you could present your own evidence. And Mr. Austin, how are we proceeding on this? If you could tell me.
Yes, Your Honor. I had an opportunity to speak with Mr. Jackson about these violations earlier. It's my understanding that he will be admitting to the at least the first 3 violations that the court just read. As it relates to count 4, Your Honor, the possession of drug paraphernalia, it doesn't appear that Mr. Jackson, it doesn't appear that he's testing that particular violation. He just doesn't have any independent recollection of it.
Okay, all right. And is that all right, Mr. Jackson? Everything he said is correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, would you raise your right hand, please? And do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Mr. Jackson, as I mentioned before, you have the right to a contested hearing. If you plead guilty, you won't have a hearing, and you'll be giving up the rights that go along with it. That includes the right to have these allegations proven, the right to have the witnesses against you appear at the hearing and to be able to cross-examine them, the right to have this court order any witnesses that you might have to appear at the hearing, and also the right to testify yourself at the hearing if you wanted to. Do you understand those rights?
Yes, ma'am.
Has anyone made any promises to get you to plead guilty?
No, ma'am.
Has anyone used any threats or other kinds of pressure?
No, ma'am.
Are you pleading guilty because you believe you are in violation of probation?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so let's talk first of all about this show cause hearing we had back in August of last year. You failed to appear for that, right?
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Can I say? Your Honor, I'm not putting, not saying Mr. T-Sword or anything is that fault or anything, but I don't recall getting any kind of paperwork saying that I was, I've had a show cause hearing. I stayed with my godfather, and in any kind of paperwork or phone calls that would come, especially from Mr. T-Sword, he would always keep me in the loop. And I would have showed up when I got arrested on these probation violations. I didn't even know I had a probation violation because when this Corona thing kicked in, prior to that, I was reporting down at the courthouse. And then when the Corona thing kicked in, Mr. T-Sword was coming out to my residence to do the report. And the last time that we were trying to report, there was some, Mr. T-Sword, he's busy. I understand that. But anyway, we weren't able to link up. We couldn't do the link up on the Duo, on the phone and stuff. And so I just didn't know what was going on. And it's my fault that I did not pursue. Okay, I'm sorry.
Have you had a report with Mr. T-Sword since August of last year?
Not that I know of, no, ma'am.
Okay. And then back on July 25 of last year, did you fail to report police contact to Mr. T-Sword? Probably it was the crack pipe thing that you had the contact
Yes, ma'am,
about?
but I did try to make contact, but I just could never get through. Could never get through. My
Okay.
godfather as well.
Did you attend the MRT program at PATS?
Yes, ma'am, I did, up until the corona aspect where we couldn't, physically sit in class. And I could never, Mr. Tsort was aware, hopefully he'll recall that I was trying to link up on the phone and stuff and could never link up on the phone. And he was just saying not to worry about it, if I remember correctly. Not blowing it off. Because as I told Mr. Austin and Mr. Tsort, I love that class. I want to get back in that class. I was excelling in that class. I was getting good information to the younger kids in there and receiving good information. I want to be in that MRT class. I love it.
Okay, very good. I'm glad to
I
hear
just
that.
done my cycle of life because I remember the last thing I did was my cycle of life project in the class. I love to be in that class.
Okay, is it true you haven't paid towards your court assessment since September of 2019?
Yes, ma'am. It's been kind of hard, but as I told Mr. Austin, I now have an opportunity to go back to one of my former employers, Whole Foods in East Lansing. I helped build, when I came home from prison, I helped build the tail end of the construction part of the store. And after they saw my work ethic, the manager, her name was, I can't remember her last name, her first name was Sarah because that was my mother's name, but she saw my work ethic. And she went to my boss, his name was Rocky Stone, on the construction and told her they were willing to offer me a job when the store opened up. And so I helped open Whole Foods. And I was the first employee of the month. And I've been in contact with them recently. And I got a chance to go back to work with them. And if not, as I told Mr. Austin, if Your Honor will just give me another chance, you can put a stipulation in that I need to have a job by the end of within 30 days of my release from custody. I will have a viable job. Okay, yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. We'll talk more about that, I'm sure, in a moment.
Okay, yes,
Now,
ma'am.
I'm told that you don't really remember possessing a crack pipe on or about July 25, 2020, but that was the day you had some police contact, and if they said that you had a crack pipe, you're not arguing with that, correct?
I'm not going to argue, no, ma'am. If they said I did, I did. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right. We will talk more about these other things in a moment, but the court finds the plea is understandingly, voluntarily, and knowingly made. It is supported by the testimony. The plea of guilty is accepted. Mr. Jackson is found guilty of probation violation. Agent Tsort, do you have a recommendation? You're muted.
Yes, I do, Your Honor. Mr. Jackson had been on the probation for approximately 7 months, and it generally had struggled even before the pandemic. I know he did make effort to attend the cognitive class, and then he had some difficulty with technology once it switched to the online version. Reporting was sometimes in person. Again, he was better, but once it went to either video, he struggled again with the technology. So I was meeting with him at his residence, and at the time of the police contact and the scheduling of the show cause last August, we couldn't make contact, or the phone that he used was his godfather's. He may not have gotten a message to him, and then we tried stopping at the residence, and then we mailed notice. He also does have a pending financial illegal use financial transaction device in Jackson County. I'm not sure what kind of resolution will happen with that, but he has an extensive record, which doesn't have to define him, but he hasn't done well in community supervision on parole and probation. I think the guidelines are 5 to 17, the advisory guidelines are 5 to 17 months, but I'm looking at one of two ways. And he always presents well in the courtroom and at the probation office. I think once he's back in the residence and in Lansing, things tend to fall apart for him. But if we knew what would happen in Jackson, that might make it easier. But I could recommend either revoking and credit for his 109 days, 9 of which he served since this recent arrest. But if he is continued, I would definitely want him to be placed into residential treatment. I just don't know how soon that can happen with the pending felony case in Jackson County. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Mr. Austin, I'll hear from you next.
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. For speaking with Mr. Jackson, Your Honor, does, to go along with what Mr. Teetsort was saying, it does sound like he was doing well for a period of time, and then when things started to switch more to a virtual setting, then he started to struggle with issues in technology and so forth. It's not an excuse. There are things that he should have done to work with that. But it is an explanation, I think, Your Honor, for what happened. And from speaking with Mr. Jackson, as he was speaking to the court about a moment ago, he did seem very pleased with what he was learning when he was attending and participating in the MRT class at Pat's, and he would like to get back into that and finish that. He found that to be very helpful and beneficial. He's working on lining up some employment, as he stated. He had a previous job at Whole Foods, and he believes that he could start to work there again. He lives with his elderly godfather, and it's my understanding this is his first official violation with this particular probation. So I would ask the court to consider continuing him on probation, and perhaps some outpatient treatment might be beneficial for him. I don't think that Mr. Jackson is opposed to that at all. And certainly if the court is considering revoking his probation and discharging him, I would ask that no further upfront incarceration be imposed. Thank you.
Okay, now, Mr. Jackson, what else would you like to say?
Your Honor, I just wanted to first just say thank you for the opportunity to have been on probation, if it comes down to that. And I'm not trying to be sucking up and everything. I'm asking for another chance. I want to do things, the right way. 2021, do things the right way, take care of my responsibility. I have an elderly godfather who is basically all I have in my corner right now. And he's struggling. He has neuropathy. He's diabetic, insulin dependent. He doesn't see well. His birthday is today, and he needs me out there. I'm not in the healthcare field, as you have instructed me that I could not be. It's not what I just live with him. He is providing a place for me to stay, and then it's a given. Well, I help him, he helps me, and he needs me out there. I'm not saying he can't get along without me, but I'm there. Like, he falls a lot, and the only person in the house with him now is our dog, and I'm sorry for, having to come before Your Honor and being not the model probationer for Mr. Teetsort. Mr. Teetsort I have nothing bad to say about Mr. Teetsort. He's but at the same rate, Your Honor, when I was informed of the violations, I didn't even know, when I got arrested, I didn't even know I had a probation violation, because like I said, I don't recall getting any paperwork or anything, or, phone calls. Not saying that it didn't happen and that it didn't get the paperwork, the mail didn't get, lost but I'll take responsibility that yes, that it was sent, and I just didn't, pay attention. So I apologize for that as well, Your Honor. I'm just asking for another opportunity to try to do things right, to make payments towards what I was supposed to pay, and I don't know if maybe I'm talking too much at this point, but I told Mr. Hall, my victim, who was a close family friend, and I feel terrible about what I did to him, has passed away in the interim, and so I know that I still must make restitution via whoever it is to the court or whoever he has deemed his beneficiary. And I will do that, Your Honor. Once I'm able to establish employment, that will be number one on my priority. Because my godfather, in order for me to do right, he'll take a step back and say, okay, well, if you can't give me this and that amount for rent or whatever, because you're paying your restitution or whatever, he'll whatever it takes for me to do the right thing, my godfather is for. He doesn't, any drugging or drinking I do is not with his condolences. You know, he has a sign on his door that says no smoking. That means no smoking of anything. He doesn't smoke cigarettes, he doesn't do drugs or drink. 39 years, a retiree of Sparrow Hospital, you know, and he's a great influence for me. He has already told me, he said, when I come home from this, it's going to be different, you know, and things are going to be a lot different. There's none of this, none of these, you know, people that you've been dealing with in the past are going to be allowed here. And if you want to be with them, then you're going to be out on the street with them. You're not going to be at 910 Leslie Street with them. And I don't do well out in the street, Your Honor. You know, so I'm going to heed his advice. And, you know, I just want another chance, you know, outpatient treatment, along with getting back into the MRT program with some help with lining it up on the, you know, whatever I have to do so I can be linked up with them. You know, hopefully this Corona thing will be lifted to where we can go back into the class, but if not, some help with lining up, you know, because I love that. I'm not just saying I love that MRT class. I loved it. And I would like to get back and finish it.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Jackson.
Yes, ma'am.
You know, I'll tell you, I listened to you talk about this gentleman that you're living with, and I looked back at the original PSI, the report that I used when I sentenced you, and
yes, ma'am.
It's alarmingly similar in that the people that you stole from were vulnerable people with disabilities, and it really scares me that you're in, it sounds like a similar situation. But I'm gonna get, no, don't talk, because it's too hard on Zoom if we talk at the same time, and it's my turn now, so. Thank you. I'm gonna give you a chance to do better, because, you know, you've told me you sincerely want it, and we're going to see how it goes. But I'm going to tell you, I am on the one hand very lenient in giving people a chance, and I am on the other extreme very harsh on dropping the hammer when people really don't mean it and they come back on a violation. So I just want you to be really clear about where we're at, okay? I'm going to give you a chance to do everything that you're telling me that you want to do. But if you come back here on a violation where I hear that you are using, or if you've stolen 1 penny from this gentleman that you're staying with, or committed anything in the way of a new offense, or not done the things that you just told me that you have a strong desire to do, like the MRT programming, and like outpatient treatment. If you haven't done those, then the hammer will fall. So I just want to be perfectly clear so that no misunderstandings.
Crystal.
Okay, great. I'm glad you understand. So I'm going to continue you on probation, and we will add, and I realize this is not either of the alternatives that Agent Teetsort gave me, but I'm not willing to revoke at this point. This is really the first violation. There are numerous problems, but Mr. Jackson wants to address them, and I'm willing to give him a hand to help him. And as far as continuing him with residential treatment, that's not really an option right now because of limited options with COVID, and also because of the pending felony will prevent him from going to inpatient treatment. So I have to rule those 2 things out. So anyway, we will add in, if we didn't have it already, the outpatient treatment requirements, Is there anything else, Mr. Teetsort, knowing that I can't do the inpatient, that you want to recommend for continued probation?
Yes, Your Honor. I believe his term is scheduled to expire November of this year. So I would ask for at least 6 additional months, perhaps longer.
Okay, we'll extend it 6 months.
And if
Anything, I mean, should we do tether or something?
I think that would be good. The only thing I might be concerned about is payment, which was another thing I was going to bring up as far as drug testing, because previously when he reported in, we were doing the testing at the office at no charge to Mr. Jackson, but I would want him referred to Adam, and there's no way that they waive the cost for testing. I think tether the cost could be waived there. And lastly, just my concern, which I probably already expressed about, until it can be in person, I'm not sure if he has the capability and technology to participate with the cognitive program.
Well, Mr. Jackson, let me ask you about that. You expressed your enthusiasm for getting back with the program, but you heard, what the issues are. You got to do it via Zoom or whatever platform they use.
Yeah, Your Honor, if I have people that I know, like, that could help me, like my godfather's sister, she has a computer and stuff. I don't know if I can use that, or if Mr. Teetsort is in any position to help me, get linked up with it. I'll get a phone of my own. He'll have the number, Your Honor will have the number if necessary, and I'll get a phone of my own to where, if I have to try to get an iPhone or whatever I need, if an Android doesn't work, whatever it takes. My godfather will, and it's not, he will do it of his own accord just to help me do what's right. Because all he wants me to do is succeed in this and get this put behind me so I can move on.
Well,
because my whole goal at this point is really, at one point when this is done, I was hoping in November of this year to be able to, if I wanted to leave, the minimum of Lansing, if not the state of Michigan. But I'm just telling Your Honor, I will not leave illegally. I promise you that.
Okay. All right. Okay. So we'll require him to go back to MRT if he gets the capability to do that. I mean, I'm not sure.
I'll find a way. Your Honor. I like that. I love that class.
All right, find a way if that's what your motivation is. And
yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
So, all right. Yes, so go back to MRT, and we could do 120 days on MDOC tether, and just to keep dibs, and I'll order the cost waived.
Okay, thank you.
So I mean,
now,
that's a little bit more supervision. That allows us to keep track of it a little bit more.
Yes, ma'am. Now, will they put that on in here, or will I get that done down?
I believe they'll put it on before you leave the jail, but I could be wrong, Agent Teetsort.
Well, if we're doing the MDOC and not the jail tether program, which I'm sure that's what you mean, because he's not getting additional jail time, it would be up to Mr. Jackson to contact once he's released from Jackson County so that he can report to the or if someone would come to his house, or he would meet somebody to get installed. Thank you.
All right. Okay. So when you are not in custody any longer, then you'll need to contact Mr. Teetsort by phone and let him know where you're at and that you're available to have the tether placed.
Okay. Okay. So as of right now, Your Honor, so one more question. I'm sorry. So as of right now, I'm available to Jackson right now, right? After we're finished.
Okay, but we don't know what Jackson's going to do with it.
No. I'm just saying. I'm asking.
Yes, because if you let me finish, if I can finish this sentence, I'd be so happy. How many days has he been in on the bench warrant? Can anyone tell me that?
It's 10 days, Your Honor.
Or Mr. Austin.
I believe it's 10 days, Your Honor. He's been in since the 20th.
Okay, so 10 days in jail with credit for 10 days served, and the bench warrant is dismissed. So that makes you available then, Mr. Jackson, for Jackson County. But whatever happens there, remember my words, okay? That when,
Yes.
as soon as you're out and you're free, contact Agent Teetsor.
I will.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
You
ma'am.
have the right to file an application for leave to appeal your conviction and your sentence in this matter. You're entitled to an attorney at public expense to assist you in doing that. If you're making a request for one, you have to make it within 42 days of today's date. It will explain that more on the advice of rights form that we will send to you. And you are all set. You can tell them at the jail you're all set.
All right. Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you so much. Happy New
All right.
Year. Thank you, Mr. T. Sword. Mr. T, it's going to be different. I promise you. It's going to be
You still
different.
have my contact
All right,
information, yes?
Yes, ma'am. Actually, I think I do, but I want to make sure. So is there any way that you can get that information to me? Or can I get it from the jail?
I can probably get it to Ingham County, hopefully before you're transferred. If it's at Jackson, that makes it more challenging.
Yeah, I'll find a way. I'll get with you though. If I gotta go down and bang on the door down at the courthouse, I will. I'm serious. And I'm smiling, but I'm serious. I'll make contact with you. I promise you. I'll keep you in the loop. I will keep you in the loop.
Okay. All right. That'll conclude this hearing. I have to go on to my next one, please.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr.